What's the weirdest thing you have ever walked in on? I work in a hotel, and a guest asked for a coffee maker to be brought up as we didn't have them in every room. I knocked on the door a couple of times as we're supposed to do and didn't hear a response, so I cracked the door open a bit to see a stark naked man with one of those leather-looking dog masks. I just froze for what felt like 8 minutes and closed the door. I just left the coffee maker outside the room. Writing that last part reminded me of this, so I guess my reply is a bit of a 2-for-1 special. I walked into the employee bathroom, which do lock, so if the handle turns I assume it's free and clear once, and walked in on a coworker completely naked, sitting on the toilet with all their clothes strewn about the bathroom floor. He and I haven't made eye contact in about a month and a half. Came home one evening to find my roommate and his friend taking turns dramatically walking through the front door while the other blasted the Seinfeld riffs. Walked into a classroom and found out that a 13-year-old had my staff photo as his desktop picture. Congrats on being the favorite teacher. ... For various reasons. I worked as a state police officer, glorified security officer at a state-run mental facility for the criminally insane. Basically everyone that wasn't mentally fit for prison was there due to abuse of alcohol and/or narcotics. While doing rounds at 2 a.m. I heard sounds coming from a double occupancy room. Seeing patients blasting rope or having sex is not uncommon, so I figured that's what was happening, but as per protocol I had to investigate and tell them to knock it off. I enter the room to see two gentlemen spooning each other, in each other's asshole with plastic spoons, going at it like they're enjoying some chocolate pudding snack packs. I don't miss that job. Once I walked into my 9-year-old cousin's room and saw him completely covered under his blanket breathing heavily. As soon as I came in, his head came out of the blanket and he looked at me kinda ashamed. I thought he was experimenting. So BC, I'm only 20 myself. I said that it's no problem to discover his body and that it's completely normal. He looked at me in visible confusion and pulled out his DS under the blanket. Turned out that I just thought my 9-year-old cousin was jacking off, while he really was trying to beat the Bowser Castle, while he should do his homework. While working in the some patient got a sex toy lost up in the rectum. Instead of surgery, the doctor attempted to remove it. He is an experienced doctor, probably 30+ years in the and has done everything. He'd save the patient from surgery and would be able to leave that night. The patient sedated with pretty powerful sedatives, propofol, and the procedure began. I'm down the hall and I hear screaming, so I briskly jog over to the room and walk in. What is a 70-year-old doctor past elbow deep in some man's rectum. It looks like he was a ventriloquist with a 200-pound doll performing a horror show. The man was screaming in a half stupor. He wasn't conscious, but he certainly wasn't unconscious. The doctor was yelling more propofol. Push it now. The patient ended up going to surgery to get the sex toy removed. One night me and my roommate watched Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny, and we specifically laughed at how funny the cock push-ups were. A few days later I walk into the dorm and his pants are down and he's flat on his belly with his arms reaching forward Superman style. He gets startled and nervously yells, "Oh hey, what's up?" and pulls up his pants. Pretty sure he was attempting cock push-ups. Probably my dad blow drying his pubes in the mirror. My mom absolutely lost it cracking up, and I can never get the image out of my brain no matter how hard I try. Walked in on a girl's father standing idly in front of the refrigerator in nothing but a pair of aged white briefs. I was 16 and not very socially experienced, particularly regarding dads in underwear, so I panicked and held up my hand to shield my own view and said something like, "I-R-H-H-H-C-H," and walked back into the garage. Her parents made me go home and I never went back to her house again. A friend of mine was sitting with his toe in his mouth for at least 10 minutes. I guess he didn't hear me coming into his room. I just walked away. When I was a kid, we had a family reunion in Oklahoma for a few days. One night, I got tired of laying awake in my sleeping bag and went to find my cousins. They were crowded around a dead snake. As one of the older girls was mid-dissection, there was blood everywhere. Considering they had just recently killed the snake and the muscles were still twitching. She told me she had done this a million times and was practicing for when she became a vet. I just went back inside. A vet or a serial killer? My mom walked in on my friend and I playing with each other's boobs. Not in a sexual way. We were laying on our sides and noticed our boobs got all squished. So we stuck a hand in between each other's and made them clap. Mom walked in, saw us, and said okay then. I tried to explain and she put her hand up and said, "I don't even want to know." Then she shut the door and walked out. Oh boy, do I have a good one. My mom and I had a huge joint party for our 15th and 50th birthdays with tons of our friends over at our apartment's clubhouse. I left the main scene to take some of my pals up to my room to show them my pet guinea pig, Squeakers. I opened the front door to my apartment with my friends in tow, and opened it without knocking because hey, it was my house. To my surprise, when I walked in, the living room was full of buck-ass nude old ladies. Now, I knew that my mom had joked about getting her friends together to take calendar girls pictures for her 50th. I did not know that this was the appointed time and place for said photoshoot. But there they were, my mom and her best friends, some of whom were moms of friends. One of whom was my former teacher, in their birthday suits carrying around big fake flowers and feather boas and cupcakes and shit, taking pictures of each other. Not a bra nor panty in sight. I stood there dumbstruck for a second, when one of the ladies waved at us and called out, "Oh hi there girls. Come on in." I made a weird panicked noise, slammed the door, and sat on my welcome mat paralyzed with a hysterical uncontrollable laughing fit for like 5 minutes. It's not that I have a problem with various people's naked moms in my living room, but it was a hell of a surprise. My friends thought it was hilarious for a while and then shut up about it, but all of those ladies apologized to me for that incident for years. Like, let it die gals. I don't need to be actively reminded of that moment every time we meet. Oh hi there girls. Phew. Before the beginning of my second year of college, my roommate transferred to another university, and housing replaced him with some random transfer. He ended up being a total pain in the ass who would play on his Xbox in the room at 3 a.m. while I was trying to sleep, while even talking into his mic, set multiple alarms at 4 a.m. and not get up, etc. After a pretty intense argument at 5 a.m., I spent the week couch surfing. I had several midterms that week and needed my sleep and began looking for somewhere else to live. Fortunately, there was an empty room in another dorm and I made the arrangements to change rooms. I spent the night in my new room, and walked over to my old dorm the next morning to move out before heading home for fall break. I was nervous about my old roommate causing a scene, especially since my mom was coming down to help me move and take me back home. Instead, I walked in on him standing over my bed, masturbating over my Arduino kit and differential equations notebook. We rent a room to a friend of my wife's. She poops with the light off and the door about 6 inches open. I don't use that bathroom anymore unless I know where she is in the house. She gives zero f and thinks it's funny. When I was in secondary school, I walked into the boys' toilets where someone had just finished curling one out on the floor. With the cubicle door open, he reached into his pocket, pulled a small TMNT figure, stood it in the poo, patted it on the head and walked out. Nobody believed me until I showed them the evidence. It was very odd indeed. Turned the corner by my father's room just in time to see him rip a page out of his wicker book thing and eat it while masturbating. It's been 4 years and I still can't forget that. I just wanna know why. When I was a kid, I lived with my dad in a loft as roommates to a woman with 2 children living with her. The garage had a leather couch. My dad and I walked into the garage one night to find the eldest boy in his teens cushions of the couch. I did not understand the appeal or the reason, but I remember wondering how long the image would stick with me. My son trying to look at his butthole with a webcam. I have 8 siblings, so I've seen far too many things I wish I'd never seen. The first one that comes to mind is the time I went into the kitchen and my little brother was on all fours, wearing nothing but a pink belt around his midsection and a pair of my mother's shoes, face down in the cat's food dish, eating its food. This was way back when my siblings and I still lived with our parents. I once walked in on my sister who had just gotten out of the shower. Everything was chill until the dildo she had just been using fell out of her vagina. She later told me she didn't have enough time to hide it. The only thing I could think to say was I'm scarred for life, and I ran out. Yes, I'm female too. We shared a room. Yes. She was wearing a towel. This isn't how the videos I watch on the internet normally go. When my kids were very young, 4 and 3 years old, I would bathe them together. One day I left the room for a minute, and on my way back I could hear cackling laughter coming from the bathroom. I sneak up to the door and see the 4-year-old on all fours, pointing his butt at the 3-year-old, who was behind him with his index finger extended as if he was going to poke his brother right in the butthole. The 4-year-old said, "Go on, touch it." And as the 3-year-old moved his finger closer, the 4-year-old farted. They both cackled like mad. They didn't bathe together after that. Younger brother had a chapped butthole and my mom was powdering it for him. He was not a baby. How do you even get a chapped butthole? I caught my 7 and 5-year-old daughters once with no clothes on playing with a video camera. I asked them what was going on. They said, "Don't worry, Papa, we're making a YouTube video." Walking in the woods when I was a kid and got to the playground where I was going to wait for a friend to play. Walked up to see a guy who was happily tied to the tire swing, laughing and saying I am the prisoner to nobody specific. I have him a wide berth to see who I guess was his friend sliding down the slide headfirst and leaving a trail of what I guess was shit behind him. I walked to my friend's house and watched Ultraman without saying a word about what I saw.